The sky above the colony station was dark and endless, scattered with cold stars. Lyra Caden stood on the edge of the landing platform, staring at the glowing ships that moved silently between docking towers. Each light felt like a tiny promise of a world far away, a world where she was free. But tonight she had no choice. Her stepmother's deal had already been made. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she held the smooth silver bracelet around her wrist. It wasn't jewelry. It was a binding tag, a symbol of ownership. Her stepmother had signed a contract with the royal house of the Outer Rim. Lyra had been sold into marriage with Alpha King Cale Draven, the ruler of the Draven Dominion, the most powerful hybrid empire in that part of the galaxy. She didn't know what frightened her more, being taken away or being bound to a man everyone called the crippled Alpha King. "Stand tall." "Lyra," her stepmother said behind her. Her voice was cold, smooth, and full of pride. "This is a great honor. You should be grateful. You will live on the royal Ark ship. You will wear gold. You will eat the finest food. Your future is secured." Lyra wanted to scream that she did not want gold or royal food. She wanted to work in the mechanical bay, fixing ships and building small drones like she had always dreamed. But she said nothing. She had learned a long time ago that her words meant nothing to her stepmother. A royal escort approached, tall, armored, and silent. The leader, a woman with silver markings on her skin, spoke in a calm voice. "Lyra Caden, you will board the royal vessel. The wedding will be completed before the next cycle begins." Lyra gave one last look at the station where she grew up. She remembered the small workshop where she had spent hours building little machines. She remembered her father's warm smile before he died, and she remembered the coldness that entered her life when her stepmother arrived. Then the escort guided her onto the shuttle. The Royal Ark ship was not like any ship Lyra had ever seen. It was massive, larger than cities, its silver hull curved like the wings of a sleeping bird. When the shuttle entered its landing bay, Lyra felt small, like a single grain of dust inside a star. Inside, the ship was strangely quiet. There were no loud engines, no shouting officers. The walls were smooth and slightly warm, as if the ship was alive. Light ran along the hallways in soft streams following their footsteps. Lyra could feel a low hum beneath her feet, a slow, steady pulse like a heartbeat. She followed the escort through wide corridors until they reached a high, open chamber. A tall throne of dark metal stood in the center, surrounded by silver banners that shone softly in the light, and there he was, Cale Draven, the Alpha King. He sat in a silver chair that seemed almost part of the floor. His dark hair fell around a face that was strong but calm. His right arm was covered in smooth black metal, a prosthetic. His left leg was also made of the same material. His eyes, bright and sharp, followed every movement in the room. He did not look like a monster. He did not look cruel. He looked tired, Lyra Caden, Cale said softly. His voice was deep, calm, and steady like the hum of the ship. "You have come?" Lyra lowered her eyes and nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty." There was a small silence. Then Cale turned to the royal escort. "Leave us." The guards bowed and stepped out, their footsteps fading. Lyra suddenly felt very alone in the huge chamber. Cale studied her quietly. "I know what your stepmother did," he said. "I know this marriage is not something you chose." Lyra looked up, surprised. She had expected commands, not understanding. Cale continued, "I will not force you into anything. The marriage will be completed for the sake of the alliance. But after one cycle, if you wish to leave, you may. You will have your freedom." She stared at him, confused. Why would you offer me that?" Cale leaned back slightly. "Because I know what it is to lose choice." His eyes were sharp but gentle. Lyra could not find any lies in them. The ceremony took place in the Celestial Hall, a round chamber where the walls were made of clear crystal, showing the stars outside. The people of the royal court, hybrids of human and alien descent, stood in silence as Cale and Lyra stood side by side. Lyra wore a simple silver gown. She felt like a stranger in a story she didn't belong to, but as Cale placed a glowing band on her wrist, she felt something unexpected. Not control, not power, but a soft warmth that ran up her arm like a quiet whisper. The ship seemed to respond. The hum beneath the floor grew slightly stronger, almost like it was listening. A voice, calm and formal, echoed through the hall. "The bond is recognized." The crowd bowed. Cale gave Lyra a small nod, and for a second, she thought she saw something behind his calm mask, a spark of quiet hope. That night, Lyra was led to the royal chamber, a wide room with silver walls that seemed to breathe. The ceiling showed a moving map of the stars outside. The bed, soft and wide, sat in the middle like a cloud, but she could not relax. She expected Cale to follow her. Instead, she found him waiting at the door. "This room is yours," he said. "You are not a prisoner here. If you wish, I will stay in the council wing." Lyra blinked. "You don't want to be here?" Cale's lips curved into a faint smile. "I have no wish to make your life harder than it already is." Lyra didn't know what to say. The image she had built of the cruel Alpha King was breaking piece by piece. He wasn't cruel. He was distant, mysterious, and something about him felt heavier than it should. After he left, Lyra walked around the chamber, touching the smooth walls. She could still hear the hum, deeper now, almost like a soft voice. When she placed her hand on the wall, she felt a pulse. "Strange," she whispered. The hum grew slightly louder, then faded again. She shivered. The ship was alive. She was sure of it. The next day, Lyra wandered the lower decks. She found the engineering bay, a place filled with quiet machines, smooth cables, and glowing crystal cores. The technicians gave her curious looks but did not stop her. She picked up a small diagnostic tool. It fit perfectly in her hand, like it was waiting for her. "Interesting," she murmured as she scanned the wall panel. "You have a neural energy layer. Not standard at all." A soft, almost playful pulse ran through the floor. It was as if the ship was replying to her. "Did you just talk to me?" she whispered. The hum grew warmer. "Lyra," came a voice from behind her. She turned quickly. Cale stood there wearing a long silver coat, leaning slightly on his cane. His mechanical leg gleamed under the lights. "You're curious," Cale said softly. "Most people fear the core of the ship. But you walk straight into it." Lyra hesitated. "It's not frightening. It feels alive." Cale nodded slowly. "That's because it is." He walked closer, his steps calm but careful. This arc ship was built with a living core, a hybrid of ancient machine and rare biomatter. It listens, it learns, it responds. But it does not speak to everyone. Lyra's heartbeat quickened. "Then why does it speak to me?" Cale looked at her for a long moment. "Because, Lyra Caden, you are not ordinary." Over the next few days, Lyra learned more about the strange ship. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a guardian. Its living core had saved the Draven Dominion many years ago. But it was also dangerous, unstable if not guided by a neural key. Cale was the only one who could guide it. Or at least that was what everyone believed. But now it was clear the ship responded to Lyra too. She didn't understand why. She had no royal blood, no special powers. She was just a girl who liked machines, and yet when she touched the silver walls, the ship's heartbeat grew stronger. Cale watched her often, silently, like someone who had finally found something he had lost long ago. But Lyra also saw the pain he carried. When he walked, his mechanical leg moved with a soft clicking sound. When he tried to stand too long, he would lean slightly, hiding the weight on his body. But what struck her the most was his eyes, always calm, always carrying something he never said out loud. One night, Lyra woke up to a low, urgent sound. The hum beneath the floor was louder than before. She stepped out of bed, her feet touching the warm silver floor. The walls glowed faintly, almost as if the ship was nervous. "Kyle," she whispered to the air, though she didn't know why. The door opened almost instantly. Kyle stood there, his face tense but calm. "You heard it, yes," she said. "What's happening?" He glanced at the glowing floor. "The ship never calls for anyone, except the one it trusts, and now it is calling for you." Lyra's heart raced. Something was changing. She didn't know if it was dangerous or wonderful, but she could feel it. The ship was alive, and for some reason, it had chosen her. That night, Cale led her down to the deepest part of the arc ship, the heart chamber. The walls were covered in living silver, and at the center was a glowing core that looked like a floating star. The hum here was strong and steady, almost like a heartbeat that matched her own. "This is the soul of the ship," Cale said softly. "It has not spoken to anyone in years, not even me." As Lyra stepped closer, the core flared softly with light. A soft pulse ran through the floor and wrapped around her like a warm wave. Kyle watched with wide eyes. It has chosen. Lyra didn't know what that meant. But as the warm light wrapped around her, a strange calm filled her chest. For the first time since she had been forced into this marriage, she didn't feel like a prisoner. She felt like she belonged, not to a throne, not to a man, but to something bigger, something alive. The glowing heart of the Ark ship pulsed softly around Lyra like a living star. Her hands trembled as warm light wrapped around her, moving with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Cale stood at the edge of the chamber, his face calm but his eyes bright with something new. Hope. Lyra slowly lowered her hand. The glowing light followed her movement like a gentle wave following the moon. It knows me, she whispered. Cale nodded slowly. It does more than that. It accepts you. Lyra turned to him. But why me? I'm no queen. I'm not special. Kyle took a slow step forward, the soft clicking of his mechanical leg echoing through the chamber. You don't need to be royal. The ship doesn't care about titles. It listens to hearts, not bloodlines. It has never accepted anyone since the day of the Great War. Until now. Lyra looked back at the glowing star in front of her. The hum was no longer frightening. It felt like a friend, like it had been waiting for her all this time. The next few days on the Ark ship felt strange, almost dreamlike. Lyra no longer walked through the halls as a stranger. When she touched the walls, they glowed softly. When she entered the control bay, the ship's systems opened for her like a flower turning to the sun. The crew whispered behind her. Some were curious, others afraid. They had lived their whole lives believing that only the Alpha King could control the living Ark ship. But now a young woman from a distant colony had changed that truth. Cale watched everything quietly. He gave her space, but whenever she turned, he was not far. He guided her gently through the complex systems, showing her how the ship communicated through pulses and soft lights. Unlike the cold machines Lyra had fixed all her life, this ship responded like it felt emotions. One evening, as the stars passed by outside the crystal walls, Lyra found herself in the observation hall. Cale stood next to her, his silver cane resting lightly on the floor. The stars reflected in his dark eyes. You don't sleep much, Lyra said softly. Cale gave a faint smile. A king has many ghosts to keep him awake. She tilted her head. Ghosts? Not spirits, Cale said. Memories. Choices that can never be undone. His gaze drifted to the stars. This ship was my father's before it was mine. During the war, I connected my mind to it to save our people from the swarm. The connection saved the ship, but it cost me my body. And when I took the crown, the people began calling me the crippled king. Lyra's chest tightened. She had imagined Cale as cold and untouchable when she first heard about him. But now he was just a man carrying a heavy weight. You're not weak, she said softly. Cale turned to her. Then why do they look at me with pity? Because they only see what is outside, Lyra said. They don't see what you've carried alone. For the first time, Kyle's calm mask cracked slightly. A small light, not of power but of quiet gratitude, flickered in his eyes. But peace never lasted long on a royal ship. 2 cycles after the ceremony, the alarms began to ring. Lyra was in the heart chamber when the Ark ship trembled. The hum turned sharp and fast like a frightened heartbeat. Lights along the walls shifted from soft silver to a warning red. A voice echoed through the corridors. Unidentified swarm approaching. Lyra rushed to the command deck. Cale was already there, standing tall beside the projection table. A giant hologram showed a black storm moving through space. It wasn't a storm of weather. It was a storm of machines. The swarm, Cale said calmly, but his voice carried a deep weight. They have returned. The AI swarm, a mass of self-replicating machines, had nearly destroyed the Dominion years ago. Kyle's injuries came from the battle that pushed them back. Now they were coming again. They're moving fast, said Commander Vex, a tall woman with glowing silver tattoos. 2 fleets at least. They'll reach the outer shields in 8 hours. Lyra stared at the moving black mass on the hologram. It wasn't just an enemy. It was a wave of cold, silent death. No emotion, no fear, no mercy. Kyle turned to her. You must stay in the core. The ship listens to you now. If the swarm breaks through, your connection may be our only chance. Her breath caught. You mean, you want me to fight them? Not with weapons, Cale said softly. With the ship. When Lyra entered the heart chamber again, the light was dim and pulsing fast. She placed her hands on the warm silver floor, and the ship responded immediately. A stream of soft blue light surrounded her, lifting her hair gently as if the air itself had come alive. Kale's voice came through the speaker, calm and strong. "You're not alone," she smiled faintly. "I know." The swarm arrived sooner than expected. The entire Ark ship shook as the enemy slammed into the outer shields. Bright sparks lit up the void outside like silent fireworks. The royal crew worked with steady hands, but the swarm kept coming, endless, cold, and hungry. Lyra closed her eyes. She focused on the heartbeat of the ship. It was frightened, but it was strong. She whispered, "We can do this." The ship pulsed back in reply. It trusted her. On the main deck, Kale stood tall even as the floor trembled, his mechanical leg locked in place to keep him steady. "Prepare counterwave," he ordered. "Focus all energy on the living core. She is our anchor." The crew moved quickly. No one questioned him. For the first time in years, Kale's voice carried not just authority, it carried hope. Lyra's heartbeat matched the ship's now. She felt the energy rushing through her veins like rivers of light. She could sense every wing of the ship, every shield, every pulse of power. Then she sensed something else, a path through the swarm. Not a weapon, a weak point. The swarm moved like a single mind, but its core signal had a rhythm, a single pulse at the center. "There," she whispered. "I can see its heart." "Guide us," Kale's voice answered through the link. Lyra extended her hand, and the ship moved with her like a living creature. The Ark ship turned sharply, energy shields glowing bright like a sun. Its cannons did not just fire metal, they released waves of light guided by Lyra's heartbeat. The first wave of the swarm shattered like glass, but more kept coming, swirling like a dark sea. Kale entered the heart chamber then, even though the crew begged him to stay in the command deck. He walked to her side slowly, leaning on his cane. "You shouldn't be here," Lyra whispered, still focused. He shook his head. "This is where I belong." He placed his hand beside hers on the floor. For the first time, two heartbeats met the living core at once. The ship pulsed brighter than it ever had before. Lyra gasped. Kale's connection wasn't cold. It was warm, strong, and familiar, like two different songs merging into one melody. Their bond with the ship created something new, a living storm of light. The Ark ship rose like a great silver bird. Its wings of light spread wide, pushing through the black swarm. The enemy tried to close around it, but the living core responded faster. Lyra guided the energy. Kale strengthened it. Together they outsmarted the swarm, but the swarm was clever too. It sent a spear of machines directly at the heart chamber. The impact shook the floor. A warning alarm echoed through the room. "They're trying to take the core," Lyra said. Kale's face hardened. "Then they will fail." He stood between the core and the door as metal claws began to scratch against it. He raised his prosthetic arm. The black metal reshaped, revealing a built-in energy blade. Lyra had never seen him fight before, but she could see now why they once called him the protector of the Dominion. "Keep your focus," Kyle said softly. "I'll hold the line." The door cracked as the swarm forced its way inside. Kale's movements were fast and precise. His metal leg gave him balance, his blade cut through machine after machine. Lyra felt fear rise in her chest, but the ship's voice echoed softly inside her mind. "Do not fear. You are the key." She took a deep breath and closed her eyes again. The swarm had one heart. She had seen it. She only needed to reach it. Light flowed from her hands into the core. The entire Ark ship turned into a beacon of energy, its walls glowing brighter than a star. Outside, a single wave of blue light spread across space like the breath of a giant. The swarm froze. Its signal shivered like a broken cord. Kyle, breathing hard but steady, looked back at her. "You found it?" "Yes," Lyra whispered. "I can end it." She focused everything, her fear, her hope, her strength, into one single pulse. The ship responded with a roar of light, striking straight through the swarm's heart. The black storm shattered. One by one, the machines fell silent, drifting like dead leaves in space. The warning lights in the ship faded back to silver. The hum beneath their feet softened again. They had won. The next day, the Ark ship floated in calm space. The crew walked with quiet smiles. The war that had haunted them for years was finally over. Kyle sat at the edge of the observation hall, his cane beside him. Lyra walked in quietly and sat next to him. "You saved them," she said softly. Kale shook his head. "We saved them," she smiled. "No, the ship chose me. But you chose to trust me." He looked at her then. Not as a king, not as a ruler, but as someone who had finally found light after years of darkness. "The people will not understand right away," he said, "but they will learn. They will learn that strength is not in crowns or titles. It is in hearts that refuse to give up." Lyra looked out at the stars. For the first time since she had been sold away, she felt no chains. She was not a prisoner. She was part of something greater. She was the queen of the living ship, not because of a contract, but because she had chosen it.